In this video, I show you how to install a Windows 10 virtual machine in VirtualBox. If this video helps you, please remember to like, subscribe, click the notification bell and leave a comment down below. Welcome, my name is Joe. Now let's get straight into installing Windows 10 virtual machine in VirtualBox. There are two main ways to install Windows 10 on VirtualBox. The first is by using an evaluation copy of Windows, which is available on the Microsoft website. If you would like a guide on how to do that, then I'll leave a card up there and a link in the description below. The other way, which is the way this video is going to describe today, is with a standard ISO file. Now this is the second video in the series, so if you would like to watch the first video, again I'll leave a link in the description down below. The card is just up there if you'd like to click on that now. The rest of this video will assume that you've already downloaded the ISO and you're ready to proceed. Here we are on the screens. Now just before we start, it's worth mentioning you do need a valid license code even on a virtual machine. So if you do not have a license code, you may need to consider the evaluation copy that we mentioned earlier. Assuming that you're happy to proceed, we will click on the new icon just over here and then give our virtual machine a name. I'm going to name it Windows 10. As we move down, we have the folder path to select. Now I've already selected mine, but if you click onto the drop down here and click Other, you can navigate to the preferred location for yourself. Carrying on, we have the type. Now this is a Microsoft Windows virtual machine that we're making, so we've got some different options here, but we're going to select Microsoft Windows. And finally, the version. Now we know it's Windows 10, and you've got the option between 32-bit and 64-bit. If you're doing a different installation of Windows, you've got all the other versions as well. Now I'm going to select the 64-bit version and then click Next. On this screen, we need to select the type of file we want our hard disk to appear as. Now, if you're doing a transfer from a different virtual machine or something like that, you may want to select one of these other disks. But as we're making a new hard disk on this occasion, we want to select VDI and click Next. Now we have two options here. This is how the storage is going to act on our physical hard drive. So we can have it dynamically allocate or fixed. Now there's pros and cons to both. I'm going to select dynamically allocated. That basically means that we can add or take hard drive space away from the virtual machine as we need to. If you have a fixed size, then the hard drive acts as a fixed size drive and you can no longer change it. Or you can, but it's not very easy to do. Now it's going to ask you to confirm the place where you want the hard drive to be saved. And as you see, the D drive VirtualBox VMs for me, that was the location that I selected on the previous screens. And then it's creating a location called Windows 10, which is what I called the instance. And then the hard drive is going to be labeled the same thing with a VDI extension. Just below that, it asks how much hard drive space you actually want to allocate. So we allocate 50 gigabytes here, or a different amount if you want to. And then because we selected the dynamically allocate, we can increase or decrease this as we need to on the fly. I'm going to leave it like this as default and click Create. Now in very basic terms, we have created a Windows 10 virtual machine within VirtualBox. The problem right now is that this won't actually do anything. If we try and boot it up, it's just going to say there's nothing available because we haven't installed Windows to the virtual machine. So to do that, click onto the settings button here and then head over to storage on the left hand side. And now you should see your Windows 10 hard drive that you've just created and an empty DVD looking icon there. Click onto the empty icon there and then come over to the right hand side and this little spinny icon here, the disk. Now in the drop down you may see the ISO that you made earlier, or if you don't, you just click into the optical disk file and navigate to the correct location. Once it's been mounted, you should see your Windows 10 ISO here, and then you're ready to click OK. Now what that's going to do is act as though it's a Windows CD inside the virtual machine. So when we start, it's going to ask us if we want to install a fresh version of Windows onto the new hard drive that we've just created. So now if we click Start, It's going to take a few seconds to fire up, and it goes straight into Windows here. And then, as you would expect a PC to do, it's gone into the installation version because there's nothing else the computer can do. So it's being clever enough to know that it needs to install Windows. As you'll see, there's a couple of boxes up here. These pop up every time you start up a new virtual machine. It's worth reading them so you know what's happening, but you can just click on them and close them down afterwards. Now for me, I'm just going to run through very quickly on the basic Windows kind of setup. I'm in the UK, so I've got all UK settings. If you're in a different country, you may want to select different options. And here, as I said before, we do need to enter a license code. You do have the option to pass at this stage and enter it later on. That's what I'm going to do right now. But just for reference, if you were going to keep this virtual machine alive, then you would need to put in a license key. Now, you may or may not be aware that there are different versions of Windows. As you can see, there's 4 different versions, and most people would be either Home or Pro. So I'm going to select Pro because that's the version that I've got, but just be aware of which version of Windows you've purchased and which license key you have a license for. Accept the terms and click Next. Now for this screen, I recommend clicking Custom, and then just making sure you've only got one drive there, and it's the 50 gigabytes that we allocated earlier. If you see anything else, then just consider what you might be overriding. Just be aware of the size and everything, and just make sure that it does look similar to what I've got here. And click Next. Now that's going to start installing Windows onto that virtual hard drive. So if you just saw there, I clicked down in the bottom corner to get this up, and then clicked on the icon there just to stop the Cortana making lots of noise. You can listen to it if you want to, but I prefer not to. So now Cortana's done her bit, we can select the settings that we need. So I'm in the UK, I'm going to select UK. You can select whichever option is best for you. And again, the keyboard layout, I'm going to select UK. Again, that's your preference, so you don't need to select what I'm selecting there. It's entirely up to you. If you need a second keyboard, then you'll know that you need a second keyboard. Maybe you have a different language that you speak. You can click Add Layout and add extra keyboards there. I don't need that, so I'm going to click Skip. And here we come to the first time setup for Windows, so you can check your preferences. If you're working for an organization, then you can join their domain and everything. For us, and for me specifically, I'm going to select personal use and click Next. And now it's going to ask me to log in with my Microsoft account. You can also select offline account if you didn't want to have a connected account. I'm going to do that in this occasion. So then select your name. I'm going to call myself Joe VM because it's my virtual machine. I'm not going to have a password, but if you're sharing the computer at all, I would highly recommend that you do. And now these preferences are up to yourself. Obviously, in a virtual machine, if you're running it on Windows already, then if you say something like, hey Cortana, then you're going to get 2 versions of Cortana load up if you're in the virtual machine as well. So I'm going to say no. But you may have different preferences there. I'll leave all of these as are. And finally, we get to a Windows login screen. Now, there's going to be a few things that pop up first time. Things like the network. Do you want to be discovered? I'm going to click yes. It's a preference thing. It just means your other computers can talk to your virtual machine if they can see it. You may also have some more of these pop up because the computer has restarted a few times during the installation, so you can close that. So here we are, a fully operational Windows 10 virtual machine in VirtualBox. There are a couple of additional things you can do to improve this, and I'll go through them in the next video. So please remember to like, subscribe, leave any comments, especially if you're having trouble, then I'd love to help you out. Other than that, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.